Behemoth raid support tips by Wine Blue. Now, Behemoth is an easy raid, but it can be frustrating to play as a support because you're encountering a large boss, making it difficult to support your team properly. And this is worsened by the fact that you're fighting as a 16-man group, making it difficult to track down your party mates. Yet, the introduction of elixirs and transcendence, and later down the road, arc passive, has empowered supports to the point of being OP. Indeed, the support role is the most important one right now in Lost Ark. That is why I will provide some tips to help supports, who are the most valuable players in the party, actually become MVP. The first tip is party comp. Don't let your party comp be head attacker plus back attacker or full hitmaster. The reason is that it makes it obvious where the gathering place will be. If you know that there's going to be a head attacker at the front, then the support can go lay buffs, puddle buff or holy aura at that area, and the hitmasters will naturally follow. Having this sort of gathering place makes it easier to provide yearning first off. Until you switch over to arc passive, you'll keep having that yearning circle, and it makes it really difficult if you have someone at the back and someone at the front. You have to rotate back and forth. It makes it really difficult. And then providing shield, heal DR, things like Hopper, Win a Music, and God's Decree. You need the people to be grouped up to provide them with more of those. And then puddle buff, obviously on Bard and Artist. And even Holy Aura, even though the circle is quite sizable, it is difficult to fit in everyone into that circle if they're all spread out. And so you want everyone to gather up. And having a head attack plus hitmaster or back attack plus hitmaster composition makes it very easy and obvious how the DPS should be gathering. If you happen to have a bad party comp, you should ask the raid leader to change it. That's the biggest tip. Now, second tip is identity management. As a support, your goal in terms of identity is to provide full buffs at every head exposure. So I'm assuming that you've seen some of the guides posted out there. And every time the head is exposed, everyone does double their damage. So it is very important that you're providing full buffs every time the head is exposed. So you'll need to understand the mechanisms, how much time you have, and how much time it takes for you to build identity. So first off, keep an eye out on the body break status. So at the top left of your screen, you'll be seeing an image of the dragon, and you'll have to pay attention to the body part. If it turns orange, it means that the body break will happen soon. Once the body break happens, there will be a groggy timer. After the body breaks, you'll have 30 seconds. After the wings, both wings break, you'll have 18 seconds. And after the head breaks, you'll have 7 seconds. This part only takes place on the first head break. So on the first one, you only have 7 seconds of double damage. But once that initial head is broken, it does not regenerate. And so you get 18 seconds of damage window where your entire 16-man raid group's damage is doubled. So you want to make sure you're providing buffs during these windows. Now, how to do that? You'll have to, yes, pay attention to the body break status, make good use of your awakenings and your stimulants. And it will be very important for you to know, to have a gut feeling of how much it takes to build identity. Gut feeling plus actual time. So in case of my supports right now, with my current build, it takes 30 seconds to build 3 bubbles on Bard, around 13 seconds to build 2 bubbles on Artist, and to build 1 aura on Paladin takes around 24 seconds. But of course, in reality, you'll be encountered with patterns and all, and so it might take longer. Some skills might be cancelled, and so you want to perhaps add a few seconds to the timings that you figure out in Trixian tests. Now, when you begin, you need to be at full stacks of Magic Stream and Luminary. On whichever support you're playing, you need to be using skills so that you are hitting max stacks when you enter the raid. So that's what I have right now. Very nice. And notice how I've provided the sonic vibration such that my DPS are profiting from it. Now they aren't, but initially they were. I followed it up with another identity buff because I noticed that we're getting a second exposure there, a weak point there. What's good to know in Gate 1 is that there is a cinematic that will happen shortly after the gate begins. And so you don't want to be casting Awakening, and you might want to save on using Identity buff for after that cinematic happens. And yes, the cinematic does cancel your Awakenings. So here, whenever you're placing Sonic Vibration, you're always trying to at least fit in 2 people, if not 3. Now I have 3 bubbles stacked up. Let's see what I do with it. 3 bubble here, noticing that it's a stagger timing, and we do have some weak point on the head. We managed to chunk it down to half. Followed by sonic vibration. Then I'm building towards my next 3 bubble. And we get a body break. So you want to be looking out for the body break status all the time. I have like a sliver left. So 3 bubble. 3 bubble used, attack buff used, branding used right as the head exposure happens. Now, ideally, I would have had it ready beforehand, but the problem is these days with Behemoth, we're pushing way too fast. It's really hard to keep track and keep up in terms of identity. So as your groups become stronger over time with all the gearing increases that they get from advanced toning, later down T4, and then arc passive, you'll have to change the way you build identity over time. Change the way you manage identity. I use an awakening there, so I can get my next 3rd bubble quickly, and I still have that stimulant. So I know that even if I spend my 3 bubbles here, I will be able to get another 3 bubble back up for the head exposure. So if I have a bubble built over here, I can just rotate a heal and then follow it up with stimulant. Except I've managed to build 2 bubbles. I guess I just use a 2 bubble there and save the stimulant. It's kind of awkward because if it was 1 bubble, I think I would have used heal. And that 2 bubble buff does not last throughout the 18-second damage window that you get for the second head exposure. Oh, he's trying to fit in sonic vibration on 2 people, except some mobile blade there. Counter. The counter is also a head exposure timing. Counters happen every 3 minutes from 12 minute 30 seconds ish and down. Of course, like depending on how the mechs pan out, the timings of these will change. But it's also good to keep track of the counter timings here, because first of all, counter counts towards your MVP score, and then second, it opens up that head for increased damage. So I think I just hurriedly use my stimulant, noticing that the HP is dropping really fast. I wanted to use it rather than not, and so I had a 2 bubble ready for that head exposure that happened at the end. Of course, like we're just too strong with arc passive and hyper awakenings and T skill and all. So we kill it really fast. I recommend this skill set. With Rhapsody, you don't really need Rhythm Buckshot here. Rhapsody can have certain uses, certain mechs. It's nice to just have Rhapsody for your own push immunity and for also protecting party mates. So I would recommend this skill set for both gates. So same thing for gate 2. You want to have Magic Stream and Luminary ready, and you're entering with full bubbles. 4 bubbles now with the arc passive. And so because of this, the stimulant value went through the roof on Bard particularly. Heavenly Tune. And I use Rhapsody there so I don't get knocked by those waves there. Now I'm noticing that everyone's spread out. Unfortunately, so I was only able to provide Sonic Vibration to 1 person. And I'm still getting used to this T skill, really. I should have used it a bit earlier to couple it up with the 3 bubble. So I use it here, and then I dodge that red circle. I provide heavenly tuned from afar. Now, the great thing about arc passive, of course, is that you don't need to be next to your DPSs to provide yearning because it have like a bit more freedom of positioning there. Providing sonic vibration to these two people. Heavenly tune, branding. Now, these things paralyze you, so you need to be on the move between skill usage and make sure that your non-process immune skills are not caught in those puddle explosions. 1-3 bubble use, perfect timing because he's doing a pattern where back is safe. I got hit there, that hurts. So because we were able to do some chip damage on the wings, we get one wing knocked out quickly, and I'll have a 3 bubble ready for the exposed head. I use that 3 bubble there, along with the area T skill. And it will last throughout this damage window. 7 seconds of exposed head. Providing sonic vibrations to 2 people. And this is exactly why you want your party comps to not include a front attacker and a back attacker. The same party. Because it really limits the efficiency of your sonic vibrations. Now this is a damage window, except that he's moving in the back, and then it's really difficult to attack him from the front. I mean, not really difficult, somewhat difficult, because if you get hit by that water pump, you get knocked back and it does heavy damage, deals heavy damage. Now another body break happens. So I use a 3 bubble here along with the area. Maybe I should have saved that area for the head exposure though. As I said, I'm still getting used to this. I should have saved it. Rhapsody for push immune. I guess I was trying to, build a bit more for 3 bubble. Of course, it's probably better. In a lot of cases, it's better to just send a 2 bubble without building a 3. At the same time, though, because you have 18 seconds after the wings break, your serenade does not last throughout the entire thing anyways. So you do have like a bit of time at the beginning. Now, if you are hugging the boss for the tornado mech, this is a perfect time to build gauge. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get 4 bubbles by the time this mech ends. So I'm rotating skills on the boss. So I use a 3 bubble here because it's safe to attack from the back. And the people are all spread out. It's just really awkward. That unfortunately the boss fades away for a mech before my identity buff ends. So we weren't able to make full use of that. And while these things are happening, you're always trying to use at least 1 skill every 5 seconds-ish to maintain Luminary buff. Our counter succeeds, so you have a bit of head exposure there. So I use some bubbles for the identity buff. Moving because process. The random puddle explosions. That was a weird place to use sonic vibration there. All right, because he's moving out of he's phasing out. The problem with these behemoths is that it's really boring at this point. It's not engaging. Sometimes we don't focus. Like we don't focus at all during Behemoth, really. One sound shock is enough to carve one of those Silmal blocks, making it very easy on Bard. But also, this phase is a gauge building phase, so that's why I'm trying to use things like Winda Music, Sonatina, and Prelude to get full gauge by the time I exit this phase. I don't know why I have this window open. So I have 4 bubbles as we enter the last phase. The landing, attack buff, branding, and identity buff. Of course, I don't have to use identity buff because I don't have to use branding because my identity buff takes care of it. Rhapsody just to make sure I don't get knocked, and then attack buff and branding coming in. I also have my Hyper Awakening ready. So here, I just use it beforehand. So that even if the DPS get knocked by this pattern, they don't have to die. Two bubble buff, and then I think my intention is to use a 3 bubble. Yeah, I use a 3 bubble here. And we kill off right there. So again, this is really fast compared to runs that will be on 1620 on eye level. Because we have arc passive and all. I guess for gates too, it's just important to make good use of the gauge building timings during the tornado mechs and the Silmal mech. Now we're on Artist, and I'm trying to prep up my Magic Stream and Luminary. And I recommend, like, you don't need to particularly cater to Behemoth, really. It's like any skills work. Having Cleanse is nice because there are things you can cleanse here. That's why I'm like using all those skills to get up that Magic Stream. Branding from afar, attack buff, identity buff, and then T skill. Followed by Hopper to start building more gauge. Puddle placed over here so that DPS can profit off that. We managed to break the wing right there. Here's the problem here. If you're on Artists and you have a hit attacker and a back attacker in the party, see one guy over here, 2 guys in the front. Where do you put the puddle buff, right? That striker is going to the back immediately, and then we have people in the front, so you're only giving puddle buff to 2 people at a time. So make sure to sort out your party comps to make it an easier, more fun experience for you. We get the cinematic right there. So again, make sure to not use your awakening at timings where the cinematic might happen. You will end up wasting it. Also, you want to hold on your identity buffs when that cinematic might happen. You'll just have to get a gut feeling for when it happens. I placed the puddle at the bottom, but we went to the top. Identity buff in after both wings have been exposed, broken. Now I have another identity buff available because of the awakening. So you need to be doing this sort of calculation, like how do I end up providing full buffs by the time that the head is exposed? And preferably you're also using your T skill whenever the head is exposed. But like the first one, I guess is it's not as important because you only have 7 seconds, anyways. And then it's hard to calculate with the T skill these days, especially because we're pushing way too fast. It's hard to prepare. We get another head exposure there from the counter. I think it was the counter or was the stagger? Yeah, stagger. Yeah, stagger also leads to head exposure there. So whenever that happens, and then here I use my one bubble buff. So that's the change artist god with the art passive. You can use one bubble buffs. And that's like very nice to use on that 7-second damage window. It's a 5-second buff. Stomp back stomp means that he's gonna do an X shape wave in the front. That's why I'm tanking it with Starry Knight. We got wings exposed. Identity management here on artists is on the easier side among the 3 supports because it's very easy to build 2 bubbles. On board, I guess it's the most difficult to manage because you kind of want to give 3 bubbles just because you can every time the head is exposed. I'm waiting on the identity buff to run out and I renewed it with the T skill in. And whenever this happens, of course, you want to make sure that Dark Bomb is in to amplify the damage that the entire raid group is providing. Another free damage window there. Identity buff, attack buff, branding in. Yeah, we were already at 50 lines left there. We just have so much power now. One bubble buff, fall into hyper awakening there. So that I can partake in the damage. Again, when entering gates 2, you want to be prepping up your magic stream and luminary. Every time. Every gate. Every raid. Proccing yearning from afar, attack buff, and identity buff. In. Now we're trying to do damage on the exposed wing. On the weak point wing. Branding reapplied, attack buff. 2 bubble buff. Ah, 3 bubbles. So I'm going to use a 2 bubble there. Like it's really difficult when your DPSs create this perfect triangle. Like where do you provide the buff, right? Where in those situations you'll just have to focus on your strongest party member, of course. But yeah, it's best to not be in the situation at all. So that's why you want to adjust your party comps so that you don't fall in this situation where someone is at the front and someone is at the back. Sun sketch provided from afar. Sun sketch reapplied. I'm saving bubbles for the head exposure. And I can build another one. And use it along with the T skill. Perfect timing. But it's only 7 seconds for the first one. My head attacker isn't even at the head. Where is this ATK guy? I placed a Sunwell for him. He's not there. I trusted his battlefield shield and he canceled it early. There's a pattern where it's nice to use Awakening and DR. You get knocked too. You want that push immunity. It's just a really rough pattern to not get hit there. This time I'm providing Sunwell on the back. Sun sketch. Branding. Always keep an eye out on that dragon, the body. Now he's doing one of the mechs, so this is a gauge building pattern for supports. You want to be have some distance from the body, because if everyone is attached to the body and they eat one of the tornadoes there, then they're giving each other debuffs. End up dying there. That's why when that mech happens, like I was building a bit of gauge here. Right, and then I take some distance off from the body so that I only get 1 debuff, not 2. Sun sketch. I'm trying to figure out where my DPS are going, but they're all spread out. So I decide to go on this wing, holding the T skill. Sun sketch, and I have identity buff and T skill available. Branding renewed, although already applied with the identity buff. And I can follow up with another identity buff. It's important to plan these things out in your head as body breaks happen. Like, how are you going to use your identity buff so that you can fully provide buffs on head exposures? Do you have your awakening available? Are you going to use your stimulant? By the way, stimulant, you can use it whenever. It's better used than not, right? So if you need to use it in order to provide buffs at the right timings, you should do that. And we're already at the point where he's going to phase. Use my T skill a bit too late, because now he's DR'd, and now we're phasing. Just buff Saint wherever he is. He's not in this in my party, sadly. So again, this is a gauge building timing. This entire Silmile mech. That's why I'm using Tiger, Hopper, all the gauge building skills, counter, Starry Night, and then I stop when the icicle is broken. Of course, it's easy enough to build bubbles on artists. So you don't have to keep building. Unlike on Bard, where it does take quite a lot. Especially because now you have to build up to 4 bubbles. Now I'm already almost at full. So now I can just focus on doing the mech more so. And then, of course, you're trying to use skills so that your luminary doesn't go off. So that's why I'm still rotating skills, even though I'm at full bubbles. I'm trying to use a skill right before the cinematic happens so that I can renew stuff after it. Oh, but it ran out. Wait, why did it run out? Oh, I was not able to cast a skill at the like right before the cinematic. You need that in order to renew Magic Stream so I can maintain full stacks here. That's kind of unlucky because I was using skills there. But yeah, Hopper only counts as one stack. And again, like whenever we're doing Behemoth, we're not really focusing. So Sun Sketch with the push immune to not get knocked, and then Starry Night for extra precaution. Because I'm not thinking here. There, if you think, you can tell where the safe spots are, but like I don't want to think when I'm doing Behemoth. Sun Sketch, Hyper Awakening used beforehand for the bubbles too, and I still have that stimulant too. Sun Sketch. I then use my T skill at the beginning because I want to make sure it is there when we get the head exposure. Sun Sketch into Identity Buff preemptively. Oh, but he went and did the co-op counter. He's not staggerable here, so that's a double buff wasted. Unlucky. A 2 bubble buff wasted. But I still have that stimulant, so it's okay. The 2 bubble buff in. I was going to use my stimulant, but we already kill it. Nowadays, we just DPS through it way too fast. Okay, last is Paladin. And I've stacked up Luminary and Magic Stream, of course. And I tend to take a 7 yellow setup just to focus on gauge building. Heavenly Tune, Branding applied, and the T skill in. Now you have to watch what he does next. His left wing, there, is now open. We're doing damage over there. Left wing again. And he's awakening before the cinematic happens. And make sure not to use identity buff here, because he might phase. Not yet. Probably after this. Yep. So if you're using identity buff throughout that cinematic, then it's wasted, right? So you want to wait. Then after you start using identity buff. T skill in as well. This is a good damage window, except he's moving backwards. Oh, in this case, we were 9 o'clock. So we go first. We're making sure not to attack him. Because if you attack him before the counter happens, you get electrocuted. So I'm just trying to use skills not on him so that I can just maintain Magic Stream and Luminary. Oh, my Luminary went out. But at least Magic Stream though. As you're running, you want to make sure that you're maintaining Luminary there. So I'm just using things like Light Shock, Holy Protection, since we could use the movement speed anyways. And T skill applied. Identity buff, branding is in because of the identity, and then T skill. We're right on time for that head exposure there. God's Decree for that push immunity there, and then follow up with an attack buff. Branding, attack buff. I'm trying to fit in everyone in that circle, but this gunslinger just refuses. Back is safe during this X wave. I want to move slightly out during this. Gain distance before you eat the tornadoes. That guy ate it too quick. You need buffs during these wing exposures. Wing weak points. T-skill in as well, along with identity buff. So we're able to chunk it down decently. Say electricity explosion mech. So I'm moving out. Identity buff still lasting. I do have 14 seconds on the awakening, and I do have stimulant. So in this case, one thing I could have done there is, after I noticed that my identity buff ran out, I could have used stimulant to get an identity buff throughout the wings, and then I could have followed it up with an awakening so that my identity buff lasts throughout the head exposure. That's something I could have done. But as I said, when we're doing Behemoth, we're not focusing. In this case, I just build identity buff and use it at the head. Alongside the T skill, of course. Followed by an awakening, so I can use it right here. So we're not going away anyways, because we already did our Guardian. Now it's just full damage here. Counter. I felt like he was going to do a counter there. Okay, failed counter means he's going to do a tail whip at the end. Tail whip. What's really nice about this arc passive is that you don't have to be next to your DPSs to provide yearning. Because if you do have the yearning circle, then you have to go around and apply it to everyone. You have to go chasing them. It's really annoying. Identity buff already in. I think I fat fingered my stimulant or something. Where did I use it? Ah, I used it here. Right. Never mind. In this case, it's kind of scuffed because I didn't manage it properly. So now I have to just work it out to get that 70% gauge. I probably won't have it ready, right? Because we're pushing too fast, too. At least I give T skill, and then I'm trying to fill it up. Okay, now I get it. Oh, but I didn't activate identity buff before I used hyper awakening. That was really bad. Again, we're not focusing. We're doing Behemoth. Like half dozing off. Not focused. He's doing an X-wave at the beginning, so I noticed that. So I just used God's Decree after positioning myself. Like I positioned myself over here, so the people at the front and the back can both benefit from my holy aura. These are the things you need to do as a paladin in case you have both back attackers and head attackers. But really, just don't put yourself in this situation because it makes it really awkward because you have to provide yearning as well. Just don't have a party comp like this where people might be spread out. What is our party comp though? We have a gunslinger. Okay, wing. Weak point on wing. So we're doing damage there. We have back attacker and saint. God's Decree just in case I get flung by that. And we get a mech. That's the hard one. Providing God's Decree. I don't want to use an awakening on this because I'm already at 80% identity buff. So I'll just provide God's Decree and maybe Holy Protection there. Yeah. This is a nice damage window. So I'm going to the back to provide to the back attacker. We have to move backwards. Providing T skill as well. And now we have the wings exposed. The weak point on the wings. And then I guess I decided just to use to fill up my identity bar with normal skills. So I'm able to provide it here without using Awakening there. That was a good call, actually. And then I can follow it up with an Awakening. So I'll also have an identity buff available after the breaks happen. Holy Aura provided again. Trying to fit in people, but yeah, gunslingers can be very much far off. Now we get the pattern. Tornado pattern. I'm sticking to the boss. I'm trying to fill gauge, holy area, buffs to get gauge, and I take some distance so I don't get double debuff. Building gauge, building gauge. Ah, I stepped in a puddle. Ah, I see that it's a bad pattern. So nice thing about this new arc passive on Paladin is I can cancel identity buffs and still get 70% payback. 75%? 70%? So I was trying to use some skills during this pattern so that I get some gauge back because I lost it. Of course, it's very dangerous here. You don't want to get pushed, especially you don't want to get double knocked back. Counter. And I have Holy Aura available for this head exposure. And he's awakening into another Holy Aura there. Some damage there, and then we get the body break. So this Holy Aura leaks into this body break there. And then I do have Stimulant available. So I'll have to see if I can build gauge fast enough for the head exposure. I probably won't. I'm probably going to use the Stimulant then. Or maybe not. I guess I get to build there. Holy Aura without Stimulant then. We're doing some good damage there. T-skill comes back, so I use it right there. Paladin's T-skill is very short cooldown, so you can just make the best out of it by keep rotating it here and there. Then we get the tornado pattern again. But I'm already full gauge there. We need to push through 80 more bars, providing Holy Aura. Now the body turned yellow. Free damage window here. I also have an Awakening available, so I can use that for the remaining 50 bars. And we get a mech. So if you have Awakening available at these timings, I can get full gauge out of it. It's nice to use it to protect your party mates like this. You don't have to save your Awakenings for these mechs. But when it does coincide, you can use it to get gauge while shielding your party mates from the dangers of that mech. And the wind is blowing, so it's making it hard. Stick to the boss. Oh, we get another exposure there. Trying to break the wings. Of course, wherever you attack from on Paladin, as long as you're not activating Holy Aura, it's fine, because everyone will get the buffs and Yearning. Wherever you're attacking from. Now we've over DPSing him. So this is just for goblin purposes. I'm providing full buffs here, pretty much. But it's going to waste anyways. So I can fill up bubbles again during the Silmal mech. We're just DPSing through. We're now at 90 bars. 87. But he's gonna fill back to 190-ish. Silmal mech means building gauge. So I'm using attack buff, God's Decree, Light of Judgment, Light Shock to get gauge. And it's easy enough on Paladin, of course, to build full gauge during this. God's Decree, and I cut it, seeing that the icicle is starting to break. And now I'm at full gauge. And of course, you're trying to maintain Luminary and main magic stream. Try to spam skills until right before the cinematic, right there. And if you did it correctly, just like this, I still have Luminary and Magic Stream at full stacks. It's really awkward with everyone. Also, I got isolated from my party. That was bad. God's Decree into spacebar, just in case. To not get knocked. Hyper Awakening use, because I know I have Stimulant, so I will be able to use Stimulant at the stagger, the groggy state. And so I can use Awakening, and since I had Hyper Awakening available, I just used that. So now I'm using Holy Aura. And oh, one very nice thing you can do when people are knocked away, like this. God's Decree from afar. And of course, I think I gave them wings. Yeah, they do have wings, so they don't die. God's Decree for extra precaution. So I'll be able to fill up full gauge actually without using stimulant there in this case. Counter. and then build engage off that short window there. And I can start using this identity buff. I guess I'm waiting for stagger to happen. T skill is in, attack buff is in, and I can renew the identity buff with stimulant, and also have awakening coming back up, which is great. So in case this damage window were longer, I could have used both of these tools to extend my holy aura there. So that might give you a brief idea of how to support in Behemoth. It's all about identity management and just really having that party comp that makes things easier. The Wine Blue Behemoth support tips. See you in the next video. Signing out.